great. But it is really exciting to have everybody here today to get that kicked off and get ready for the big fight that we have ahead of us. It's a uphill battle for sure, but I know that everybody here is really committed to waging that struggle and finding ways to work together to achieve what we know to be necessary in order to turn our union into a fighting union. I'll hand it over to you, Jennifer, to keep going with the intro.
Thank you. Next slide, please. These are some of the ways that you can get involved with Teamsters Mobilize. We have these, obviously, these general membership meetings every 2 months. We have our media committee and we have our steering committee. We will be looking for new members for our steering committee shortly, so keep an eye out for that. For those who are not involved with TM at all and would like to at least find out what we're about, we have a introduction questionnaire, and Jess, can you go ahead and post that in the chat if you haven't yet? And fill that out, and a TM member will get with you shortly. Next slide, please. Just join us on WhatsApp. That's how we communicate primarily. Next slide. Here are the current members of the Teamster Mobilize Steering Committee, just so you can see who we are. Next slide, please. Colleen?
Yes. Hey, everybody. Already introduced myself, part of Local 804, also a member of Maoist Communist Union. And so basically with this platform, Teamster Mobilize's basic position is that we're not going to wait around for maybe a new progressive labor leader to just spontaneously appear from like some dark room and then we endorse him or she. We are trying to really put forward clear and loud expectations that we think are reasonable, but still have some teeth to them, to one, inspire our brothers and sisters, and two, really stand apart from others in the union movement who kind of sort of encourage us to keep our heads low, the bar low for what we should win, and sort of only go for demands that are quote unquote winnable. But we can already see in the very short period of time the fruits that came from our demand for $25 an hour in TM or our Vote No movement. Did we get those $25? Did the contract get turned down? No, but we know from our experiences at Labor Notes, at the TDU convention, or even seeing Boeing workers come onto a Teamster Mobilize call over the summer, speaking about how in their contract campaign they decided to emulate us. That means that we affected other workers in our in the programs and campaigns that we've put forward thus far. So this is why we're gearing up, and for this election, we're really putting forward what kind of union do we want. And if we want to have a strong force within the Teamsters that truly opposes class collaboration, we really actually have to build up ourselves first. Look who's currently our president right now. We need to remember, sorry, hold on. So give me 1 second to regather myself. So although this platform and demands might appear to be predominantly geared towards like our labor misleaders, or particularly like an individual, Sean O'Brien or any opposition, it's actually primarily these demands are mostly geared towards our brothers and sisters in the union right now, to bring up involvement, to inspire them, inspire our brothers and sisters. And we hope that everybody who's on this call and throughout the future in the lead up to the election, take these demands and go and talk to your coworkers about them. We obviously, to some effect, do want leadership to see these demands, but we can't forget that this is also predominantly geared towards our brothers and sisters. So that was kind of the main point that I wanted to open up with. And throughout the slides, when all of the TM members speak to each demand, I looked up different comics from the past in the labor movement. And although that isn't where we are now, I think we should really see the basis that a lot of way to inspire our coworkers is through concrete demands. And yeah, so we can like kick it off. from there.
Thank you, Colleen. My name is Jennifer Hancock. I'm a Teamster out of Local 322. I've been with UPS as a part-timer for about 33 years now. I'm also one of the founders of Teamsters Mobilize. When we started Teamsters Mobilize, yes, we were primarily trying to give a voice to part-time UPSers. I think we have grown quite a bit over the last couple of years, and I hope that this platform that we're putting together makes all Teamsters, I hope it's inclusive. I hope all Teamsters feel like that they are represented in some way in this platform. Although we do have at least one demand in there for part-time UPSers, of course, because that's where we came from. So this was done by survey, and this is the things that our Teamsters have told us are most important to them going forward. The first point, abolish tiered wage scales. We also call this pay parity. Employees are doing the exact same work, standing next to each other side by side. Here at UPS, we're all handling boxes, but other jobs within the Teamsters unions also have people working side by side doing the same jobs, but being paid different wages. We feel it's time to end this practice and end the dispute between union brothers and sisters. Our second point, as I noted, was another UPS part-time demand. This one was end the UPS part-time job classification. Our union agreed to this decades ago. It was Hoffa Senior, actually, and it weakened our union, leading to a permanent underclass disrespected by the company and by our own fellow Teamsters. Teamsters Mobilize was founded to give a voice to the voiceless. The number of our fellow Teamsters who speak of part-timers with contempt is an indictment of the failure of the Teamsters to build union solidarity within our own ranks. Part-timers are Teamsters, full stop. Let's abolish this part-time job classification and work to rebuild the union solidarity for all of our members. Leave no Teamster behind. Big Will, would you like to cover the next 2 points?
Good morning, brothers and sisters. This is Big Will out of Teamsters Local 396 in Los Angeles, a 30-year full-time driver. And I'm here to talk about reduced work hours and the fight for free time. The fight for free time is for us to fight for liberation, both individual and collective, right? And I would just want to add to the point that in Europe, or most Western democracies have a reduced hour work week or are going to implement one. So one of the largest examples that I found was in Germany, and it's from IG Metal workers. They launched a campaign in 2018 to reduce their work hours. And here's a quote from one of the workers that I want to share with you guys. And I think we should take this to the bargaining table in our next round. Free time, as IG Metal argues, is essential for basic dignity to care for ourselves and our communities. We need time away from generating profit for employers. Just as importantly, we need to realize our human potential, our ability to think independently, experience romance, nurture friendships, and pursue our own curiosities and passions requires time that is ours. Time that belongs to neither the boss nor the market. At its core, the campaign for fewer working hours is about liberation, both individually and collectively. That was from one of the IG workers that spoke on this issue. Also, in the United States, we have this hustle culture that we know all too much about at UPS. A lot of us work 50, 60 hours a week, and that's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for society. It's unhealthy for our families. And we need to really start thinking about bringing back the old trade union tradition of reduced work hours with no loss of pay or benefits. This will go a long way for us to, to build community, to build our union, to build solidarity with other unions, to have just free time to think and read and become better citizens in this country. So the next point I'm going to talk about is, or just briefly read about, is wage scales in all contracts start at a living wage, right? And that's part of, no loss of wages or benefits at all. So we want to abolish the part-time position, but we want, full-time benefits and full-time full-time wages. And that goes with technology that they're bringing into UPS, right? They're bringing all this labor saving technology. The bosses shouldn't have a piece of that, all on their own. We should get some of that back to us. And with that, I'll pass it on to the next speaker.
Jose?
Buenos dias to all the comrades on there. So I'm going to discuss big, open, and transparent negotiations. What is big, open, and transparent negotiations? Or what I like to call BOT. And it is a way to negotiate that was introduced to me by reading and listening to the great labor organizer, Jane McIlvaney. It is a way for the rank and file to be engaged, participating, and determining their respective futures. Now, I'm going to discuss big negotiations. Basically, electing really big rank and file bargaining committees by the rank and file, no appointments. This is union democracy. We saw in the UPS contract that there was a rank and file bargaining committee, which everybody here on Teamsters Mobilize appreciates. But it should not be appointed. It needs to be elected by the rank and file, those that work shoulder to shoulder on the shop floor, those that drive the package cars, that they know, they trust this individual. This individual looks out for the best interests of their group. So it needs to be a really big rank and file bargaining committee, but it cannot be appointed. Open negotiations, opening up the bargaining negotiation process to all the rank and file. This is a way, this will encourage a member to participate if it's only once and for 30 minutes. This will let other members know that they are welcome to sit in during bargaining. They can pass post-it notes to the bargaining committee. This gives them a sense of ownership of the rank of the negotiating, rather than, it's something distant. Transparent negotiations. Well, this goes without saying. The rank and file needs to stay updated. We need to know what's going on in these negotiations. No more gag orders, no more non-disclosure agreements. When there was a rank and file committee for the UPS contract, those rank and file members had to sign a non-disclosure agreements. We cannot allow that to happen. The rank and file need to know how the bargaining is going. And on that, I'll pass it on to the next comrade.
Jess?
Yes, the contract matters. We want to get a shorter contract term. We do not want a 5-year contract. There is too much that changes within 5 years. A 5-year contract, any longer contract, I know unfortunately some people have even longer contracts, that benefits the bosses. We can't predict 5 years in the future. We shouldn't be locking ourselves out of any changes that we need to make before 5 years is up. We want to negotiate shorter contracts. We can better see out 3 years in the future. Yeah, we want those shorter contracts. I know in the past UPS did have shorter contracts. There were 3-year contracts in the past. I believe, the company and the union were in favor of moving towards longer contracts. I'm sure the union sees it as less work for them. That's the less that they have to get together and negotiate these contracts. So that works probably in their favor. We know that the union often doesn't like to really put in the hard work that it takes to bring wins to the workers. Another thing that we want to do is we want to start aligning contracts with May 1st, May Day. 2028, that was the year proposed by Sean Fain, the president of the UAW. Unfortunately, our UPS contract will not expire until August of 2028. But getting everybody's contracts lined up in general, whether it be the time of the year, a certain year, the closer we can get to a general strike and the right to be able to do that, that's just the more power and leverage that the workers are going to hold, and the more wins that we're going to be able to get from the bosses. You know, in general, the elites aren't really worried about like one small group of people going out on strike. If we had millions of people that could all go on strike at the same time, that's a little bit scarier to them. So, you know, we just by having that, whether we actually are all able to strike together or not, having that strike power is going to afford the workers more. So we want to try to get that lined up throughout Teamsters contracts, throughout other industries. That's just a great idea in general to lead up to a general strike.
Thank you, Kat. Humberto?
Good morning, comrades. I'm Humberto Ibarra out of Local 63, UPS driver. I'm going to talk about the need for our next leadership to actually protect our jobs against automation, because automation is the the flavor of the month across every industry right now, and I feel like the Teamsters have been falling asleep at the wheel in protecting our jobs against it. When companies implement a layoff, it is supposed to be due to economic impacts the company faces. But we all know UPS is reporting record-breaking profits year after year. So laying off employees while profits are high should be seen as a malicious attack on the working class. Currently, from what I can tell, we have no language protecting the benefits or income of our brothers and sisters in our contracts with layoffs. Now is the time for us to discuss layoffs versus furlough language to be included in the contract. Since UPS is our largest employer and for the Teamsters, it's a big influence, we need to hold them accountable. The Teamsters have fought for great benefits for our members. These are not protected during the layoff, so we need to have language regarding furloughs to protect our benefits while we are sent away from work. Holding the company accountable financially for the workers will hopefully prevent them from pulling the trigger on closures for automation so fast. I also want to change the language from and no longer use severance, because I don't want to sever anybody from their job. I want to make sure we list it as a stipend if somebody is on furlough, or an allowance if they need to travel to a different building. But we shouldn't be allowing UPS to just go willy-nilly on closing these buildings and not being financially responsible for us. And that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, that's really well said, Humberto. Thank you so much. And you said automation is the flavor of the month, which is, I can definitely attest to that as somebody who has recently been laid off of my part-time position at UPS after they automated the small sort in my hub. At the same time, automation is not anything so new. I mean, since the start of the whole capitalist system, the bosses have been in really fierce competition with one another to get the newest technology so that they can squeeze even more and more profits out of us. And it is true that this is going to continue. To some extent, we can't fully stop automation. That's just the reality, but we can fight like hell to make sure that we maximize all possible protections and safety nets for our brothers and sisters who get laid off. And the O'Brien administration has really failed completely to do this, both in terms of the last contract campaign that we had in UPS in 2023, not putting any enforcement measures with any real teeth in there. And then even with the small amount of measures that we have in the current contract, not fighting to enforce those at all. I think many of us have seen instances where the local leadership of our Teamsters unions just lets these big shift closures or even building closures happen without implementing the very minimal change of operations language that is in the current contract. I personally have gotten a lot more support from my shop steward and even rank and file brothers and sisters on the floor who have been filing supervisor worker grievances on my behalf than I did from my local leadership. And I really appreciate that solidarity. That being said, we need better from our leaders. We need people who are going to fight tooth and nail by our sides, not just do a service for us, and definitely not roll over whenever UPS management decides that they want to make a change to help their bottom line.
Yeah, I would echo everything that's been said so far, and I think this kind of relates to we talk about the ultimate weapon of the Teamsters of the working class. I have a little statement written out here. I think so. I think all of us are basically aware that the power of organized labor of working class in general comes from our ability to collectively withhold our labor, right? There's a lot of reactionary bureaucrats that would not even deny that. I've heard people, that are like very, very right wing and against the membership talk about this sort of stuff at the membership meetings and use this kind of language. But words are one thing. The actual orientation of the union is another thing. So, and you can tell a lot about the union by its position relative to the right to strike. So unions with sellout leaders who fear the strength of the workers, who prefer their members to be organizationally weak and politically narrow-minded, and who seek deliverance from ruling class politicians and the corporations themselves will naturally accept severe limits on the right to strike. And that's sort of what we see in these contracts that have completely waived our right to strike for any reason, whether it's safety, whether it's like major violations of the contract, whether it's just like things that were, the million ways in which the companies are actively trying to heighten our exploitation. So that's what we see from these sellout leaders. They deal in, interminable bargaining sessions, arbitration, and ultimately the sellout contract, which is, we see that at UPS most notably. And every time they're questioned on this, they will always say that there is no alternative. That is a vicious and destructive lie. When we lay down the strike weapon, we as workers, we leave ourselves defenseless in our most basic struggles. Without our most powerful weapon, like in our hands, the working class cannot become aware of its own strength, and we're forced to rely on the mercy and the benevolence of other classes for our own advancement. So we have to continually raise our ability to fight against the companies. And part of that struggle right now is fighting to eliminate the no strike clauses in Teamster contracts. Right to strike reopeners like for safety or serious contract violations are a really good starting point. There's some precedent for that, but we need to go beyond that. We're struggling to develop the fighting spirit and the knowledge of our class, but all that's basically going to be in vain if we're legally barred from using our strength to fight the battles that are important to us on the shop floor and on the national level. Yeah, so as we fight for a membership that is more and more aware of itself as workers, the no strike clauses, they just become a shackle on our development of our union and our membership. We have to raise this slogan now because there are many Teamsters out there who do want to use our collective strength to fight the bosses. There are Teamsters out there who do see the ways in which the companies trample on the legally binding contracts that we sign. And there are Teamsters out there that see that you can't just use the muscles of the working class once every 5 years. They have to be something that you're using every day, or they atrophy and they die, which is what we're seeing. We want to unite with those Teamsters. We want to fight for those changes because what we have right now is nowhere near good enough. And one last thing I'll say is that we're criticizing these existing policies not because we hate the union or whatever. We see the power that the union holds. We see the latent strength in all of our fellow workers, and we want to see that. We desperately want to see that put into use to better ourselves as workers and to end the exploitation that we suffer every day. So for that reason, end the goddamn no strike clauses.
Well said. Jess?
Yeah, we want, really, we should be able to strike over anything that the membership is organized enough to strike over. Anybody that is an organizer or has spent much time on the strike shop floor, we know how difficult and how much work is involved to getting everybody unified and getting people on the same page. So if that body of workers is united enough on an issue that they believe is important enough to strike over, we should be able to strike over that. We shouldn't have our power limited to basically the only time you could possibly strike is if, the union and the company don't agree on a new contract every 5 years, right? Because like we saw in the last UPS contract, our union leader, the one currently in place, will do just about anything to avoid a large scale strike. He will work with the company to make sure that that doesn't happen. He will hire a PR firm and spend over $1 million to push a sellout contract on the membership. He will have his business agents all over social media trying to convince members that there are no concessions in this contract and why we should add cardinal infractions to our supplements and how that's somehow good for the workers. This should lie in the hands of the workers, not the union leadership. Stuff like harassment and retaliation, it is rampant at UPS. If you've worked at UPS in the last 10 years, like everybody has dealt with this, even the best worker, even the one that goes in there and runs, even the ones that keep their head down. Everybody has suffered harassment, retaliation, and intimidation at UPS, not just specific UPSs. It's everywhere. Everybody can agree to that. And there is really no recourse, right? Like you file a grievance, but what does the company do with that grievance? They settle it as company will comply. The company does not comply. They just settle that to get the grievance off the books. Union leadership is not fighting that. They even consider it a win now to go in and get the company to settle for company will comply, right? And then, if you really, really, really wanted to push it further, the next step would be that union leadership gets it settled for a specific supervisor will comply, right? Like that's the next win. These things aren't wins, and your union doesn't even want to fight for that, right? My business agent even will use another person who was adamant that their grievance go to panel, who only got it settled for company will comply at panel. Even if you take it to panel, they're only going to settle it for company will comply there. So we should just settle it at the local level for company will comply. Trying to convince the workers that that's a good thing. We all know the company doesn't comply. There are no real protections, and people suffer not only at work, but it affects their personal lives when they're off the clock. That affects your mental well-being to be treated like that, and also to feel like there's no answers, right? You have no other choice. There's nothing to be done about it, and your union doesn't want to back you up. We need real ways to fight harassment and retaliation, right? If we were able to walk off the job when you're harassing one of our Teamster brothers and sisters, I bet you they would fall in line with treating people with respect if they knew we could shut it down and walk off the job, right? Their most important thing is money. So if we were able to disrupt their money because they don't want to treat us with respect, do they want to treat us with respect? No, but if that's going to keep their money flow going, we might earn a little bit of respect. So we need these abilities to strike for whatever the workers feel like striking over, right? Because if one person walks off the job, is that going to have a huge impact? Like, no, right? Like, we're going to be united enough for the whole group of workers to walk off. So if they feel like it's important enough to do so over, then we should have the right to do so. We shouldn't be threatened to lose our job, to lose our health insurance, to not be able to, pay our rent because we felt like we deserved dignity on the job and we wanted to do something about it.
Thank you, Jess. Next slide, please. Will, you're up.
Good morning or good afternoon, brothers and sisters. So our union, for it to do better, it has to change. And one of the easiest changes we can make is taking things from the staff model that we have now and going towards an organizing model. The staff model, you're probably very familiar with it. The union, bureaucrats, they see the union dues as a subscription to a service that they provide. They rely heavily on office staff and business agents. And what happens with that is it creates a bureaucratic bottleneck where the staff is overwhelmed and the business agents are overwhelmed or lazy, and they only get to certain issues, the issues that they think are important, right? So moving towards an organizer model involves people who are actually being affected by the issues. What you do is you work by committee, you create working groups and committees around the issues that affect those people, on the shop floor. So if you have, at UPS, that's where I come out of, if you have big 9-5 issues, then you create a 9-5 committee that works on specifically that. And so what the organizing model allows you to do is it allows you to take a lot of different people doing a lot of different things so that you can fight the company everywhere that the company is creating injustice and not just have to narrow it down to a few other issues and then put everything else on the back burner, right? Where you're filing a harassment grievance, but your BA only wants to solve pay issues because that's what's popular with the most amount of people, right? So your harassment grievance goes on the back burner or settles company will comply, as our sister just talked about. Also, the staff model takes people from the shop floor who have to work under these conditions and involves them in solving these conditions, not some pampered bureaucrat who hasn't seen the inside of a truck for years. So it involves the people who have to, who experience these things, day to day, right? So, I don't know how long it's been since Sean O'Brien did any work, but he certainly isn't connected to the shop floor. And so, to Sean O'Brien, I'll say, you got soft hands, brother.
Thank you. Colleen?
Yeah, and speaking of Sean O'Brien, so we have commitment to international solidarity. And I want to sort of explain things that we can still do as TM, but then also just the basic bar for our leadership. What do we have right now? We have Sean O'Brien, who basically says that all workers from other countries we're fighting in competition with, all immigrants are criminals, they're rapists. All he does is parrot Trump's racist and xenophobic comments, which us as TM have already done a lot of public push at our locals. We had a special meeting at the beginning of March. We've been putting out a lot of materials on social media opposing this. But at a basic level, I think from our union leadership, we want this whole divide between we have questions around wages and then politics, and that politics are all divisive to the union, that we can't talk about political questions. I think our expectations for leaders is like, one, we should be able to talk about political questions in unions, and they should not all be shut down from our leaders. We should not be at a TDU convention and be told that a Palestine statement or in Will's experience, the convention before, that a statement around the Philippines has no business here. We don't want any of that. This whole Teamster versus everybody has got to go. Like, at least just some basic reception to allowing, or not even that we need their permission, because obviously we're not waiting around for permission from our union leadership, but we need at least to raise the bar a little bit to allow these questions to be put forward in the shop floor and not face hostility, and just to like cut the shit with the whole Teamster versus everybody thing. If we can just have a little bit more, and no more ads about China's planes, about China manufacturing planes being really shitty, or even in the past, there will come a time when we are in periods of war where our union leadership will basically tell us, like, we can't strike over bread and butter issues because right now America is at war. These are kind of the things that we're talking about when we have commitment to international solidarity. As far as for Teamster Mobilize, we will still be putting out statements around Palestine, the deportation of the ICE raids, and really kind of pushing forward that our brothers and sisters internationally, the international working class, who are going to help us free us from exploitation and ultimately the class society overall. Is that what our labor leader is going to do? No, but that's sort of what I think is on the field for us right now as far as international solidarity, is that us as militants and rank and file, let's keep doing what we're doing, bringing forward resolutions, creating all the statements that we currently have already in the past 2 years. Let's keep that going. Let's not wait around for our labor leaders or misleaders. And then as far as for the future elected officials, like, we just need to raise it up just a little bit more so there's not hostility. But I don't expect that, like, Sean O'Brien's going to turn around tomorrow and like back our statement per se, just to like keep some expectations leveled, and just the true backwardsness that we currently have, which is a lot of nationalism, even anti other unions, with the Teamster versus everybody. That's even just within America. He doesn't want to promote solidarity. So I hope that was clarifying and inspiring for people. So.
We're heading into our open discussion period. Kat, you can stop screen sharing. We're going to ask folks to go down. If you go down to reactions, you will see the raise the hand feature. So we ask folks to raise their hand if they wish to speak. We ask you to keep it to 3 minutes or less so we can allow as many people as possible to have a chance to speak. Does anyone have any comments? Zoe?
Yeah, I just want to go back to some of the demands that were raised. I think the fight for free time, for family time, whatever we want it, is just so important. I think it can go beyond just a shorter work week. I think we should also look into like stronger paid time off provisions in our contracts, especially more paid time off for folks who are newer at UPS. Like when you're UPS specifically, when you're first starting off, you have no paid time off. You know, my experience is that whenever you take time off, before you have any days, before you have any sick days, any option days, anytime you call out, you get a write-up. I think the third time I called out in a year, I got my first write-up for that in my first year. And I think that it's just another tool for UPS to go after people, to harass people. So I think that in general, like more paid time off options, whether it's like mental health days, fatigue days, you know, more sick days. I think that's really necessary on top of the shorter work week, which I definitely support. I think that's such a great way to address automation in particular, and to also sort of getting rid of the part-time tier while raising up hours, and giving drivers a more reasonable number of hours and workload, I think is a really great way to move forward.
Thank you. John? You're muted
Yeah,
up there.
yeah, I unmuted myself. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
First of all, it's been a long time, and it's good to see you all. I see you're still committed to doing good work. Several issues kind of jumped up. You guys, and I know you understand that, a broad brush at the GEB, please don't paint me, because I have been fighting these guys at every meeting on many of these issues. I was trying to put the resolution that I put up, that I proposed for the AI using our resources, but I couldn't load the document up on the chat. But when I proposed that at the GEB, it was tabled, and I was attacked as being political with it. I also have mentioned to the GEB, when we look at some of the food processing and the meat packing plants, particularly in Colorado, an abundant number of those people who are members are more than likely not documented. And what are we going to do about protecting our members? And the whole, and I know I'm running a little bit long, but I just want you guys to know that at least one person on that board is fighting to try to line up with the things you guys believe in. It's business unionism at its worst. Sean O'Brien, I apologized to you guys before. I'll do it once again. I'm very sorry that I ran with him. I'm very sorry that I bought the bullshit, but I'm also, I was in very short order man enough to stand up and fight these guys. We all have to unite around these issues, and the task ahead of us to win an election is going to be, just the delegates. The process is stacked against us, but there's no reason we shouldn't try to unite. I've been working, many of you listen to Steve Zeltzer. I've been working with him. We've been working on these issues of immigration. And yesterday we had a very, very nice panel talk about the biggest, I guess the majority of the members were Mexican UAW workers, even though they're not members of the UAW, but auto workers in Mexico. The UAW now is separated in Canada. The effects of tariffs. I mean, most of y'all probably saw the statement I put out about the tariffs. This for Sean O'Brien and the GEB to suck Trump's ass is sickening, and we are totally offensive to the rest of the labor movement. We have to figure out a way to build across borders, working men and women, and corporate unionism is a big problem, and it's a big challenge to try to win out against it. So I just want y'all to know I'm here. There appears to be a group of people that are trying to put something together. It probably won't be perfect, but we certainly have to get rid of Sean O'Brien, and we certainly can't abandon the ideals that you guys are putting forth. Absolutely. So I've run on. I've had my say, but thank you for giving me that little bit of time. And I'm fighting to fight for you guys.
Well said, Brother Palmer. Will?
I just want to go back to this point about automation and about shortening the work week, because they're intrinsically linked. All right, so society is changing, right? We hear a lot about fighting automation, keeping automation out of industries. We're not going to keep automation out of industries. We're not going to keep automation out of industries any more than the Luddites were able to keep like the loom out of the textile industry, like in historical England. What we need to do is we need to change society for the benefit of the workers. Change is coming. And the question is the change better for the workers, or is the change better for the owning class, right? So what do we need to do when it comes to automation? Well, I work in an automated building, and there is a supervisor that sits in the flow control room and turns on belts, turns off belts. That is a job that a Teamster should be doing. That is just because you're advancing a package with a button instead of your own hands and arms and body does not mean that you should not be able to be unionized. So we need to start thinking out of the box, right? And so we need to start winning these information technology jobs. We need to start winning these jobs where you're in an automated facility and you're staring at a computer screen all day. Now also, we need to just bring down the time that it takes to feed your family, right? We have this model where, you know, unions used to fight for what was called full employment. And full employment meant everybody has a job, everybody has the ability to feed their family, right? And what does that cut down on? That cuts down on the people who are trying to crawl over each other like crabs in a barrel. This reserve army of labor that is put out of work right now, those are the people that the corporate interests use to break strikes, to push down wages. So if we fight for everyone's ability to be able to feed their family, that strengthens labor just you know, off of itself, right? We used to have these ideals where instead of chasing overtime, we said we're not going to scab the unemployed by chasing overtime. But now it is a way of life for people. I myself survived as a part-timer for a long time by six punching, by double shifting. Okay. I you know, the economic conditions at UPS forced me into working positions that somebody else could have filled, somebody else who has a worse job, or somebody who has no job at all. So society is changing. We need to change with it, and we need to make sure that the change is to our benefit and not to these, you know, absolute like psychopaths like Elon Musk or Peter Thiel, who just, you know, they don't care about evictions. They don't care about child poverty. They don't care about people who have to go to sleep for dinner. Okay. And there's nobody fighting for the working class. So we need to take this imperfect institution that we're a part of and turn it into a fighting institution. Otherwise, we stand no chance.
Here, well, to Zolk.
Yeah, hey all. Good to see everybody. So for me, like the staff union thing is important on a lot of fronts, not just because myself and my colleagues, I think Alex and Jocelyn are here today. Thanks everybody for coming. I mean, in of itself, it is a really basic workers' rights issue, and a lot of unions get this wrong. Um, Teamsters being one of the main perpetrators of this, one of the least unionized unions in our country. But it's more than just that basic workers' rights piece. I mean, I was a business agent, so I can speak from experience on this. But it's the staff piece is one of the top ways to deter like member governance, like transparent member governance and democratic unionism. Because typically what ends up happening is the agents end up being extensions of leadership. And I can recall many times where I was told, don't pick up ballots from certain barns. And why did they not want ballots picked up from certain barns? Because they knew those barns were going to vote against them in an election. So of course I was like, whoa, okay, this is very different from unions I've worked at. Because I will tell you, most unions, like, you don't get involved in the politics, period, because that is not your place as a staffer to be involved in those politics. That is for the members to be involved in. So being a business agent, if you're not okay with that sort of mindset, it is very, very difficult to be a representative that's able to just advocate for the workers that they represent. You end up being sort of a political pawn in whoever's like attempt at taking over the local or maintaining their current status quo leadership or fiefdom, whatever you want to call it. But the staff thing, like I said, it's important for two reasons. One, because it's just the right thing to do. But two, also, it removes agents from being part of that political structure that honestly should only be in the hands of the members. And I'm kind of in a weird position because I used to be an agent and now I'm an officer at 223. And I've pushed our local to have a staff union. I mean, ultimately, it would be up to our staff, but uh, I've thought about this for years, and the more often that we can get, or I should say, the steps that we can take towards getting agents away from being officers and getting staff organized would really, really help in making sure that there's more transparency, there's more union democracy, because it removes, um, I guess, bad officers from being able to utilize agents as like pawns in their attempts to either take over a local, maintain leadership, all that stuff. But this is a deeply, deeply entrenched issue in the Teamsters. And as far as I know, there's only two locals in this country that are organized. 117, and I think one little local out of Tukwila, or sorry, Everett. So both coincidentally are in Washington. Um, so, for a lot of people, it's not something you immediately think of, but that structure has a lot of power for people that are in control. And it just, at the end of the day, needs to be completely shifted so that there's a lot more union democracy and transparency. Thanks. Check.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Thank you for attending. Oh, Will, go ahead.
I'll make one more point. I'll make one more point about striking and about safety, since it's like my pet issue. Down here in the South, the company literally kills workers. Um, they tie up any sort of issues in the courts, or they will throw money at the family to go away. Safety is something that any facility, any sort, should be able to strike over. Not call the BA, ask for permission, call the principal officer, ask for permission. I mean, if you are in an unsafe situation, you take your members out that day, that minute, and you say, we're not working until this issue is resolved. In the summertime, UPS drivers, what they do is they cut routes and they combine them, right? And you'll have 200 stops, you'll have a completely blocked walkway, and you'll have to go in a literal oven to find your packages, right? At the same time, they're cutting preload hours, and they're giving preloaders 4 or 5 trucks, and they're harassing them and riding them as hard as possible, which is giving these drivers a bad load. So right when it is the most dangerous to have a truck that you can't walk through, have a truck that is loaded poorly because they're just riding these poor preloaders, right when it is the most dangerous for that to happen is when the company is heightening these conditions, right? So if you have a heat injury, and you decide on your sort that you're going out the next day, that you're not working the next day, or that you're not going to work the first 2 hours of the next day, or if you're a driver and you say, all right, at the heat of the day, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we are putting ourselves on lunch, and we're going to go sit in the air conditioning, and we don't care if it's longer than an hour lunch. We're taking a 3-hour lunch to protect ourselves and to show the company that we're not going to take this shit. All of that, all of that should be, ultimately the law in this country is a farce, and it's built for the millionaires and the billionaires. But all of that should be enshrined in law and protected by the union. And anybody who says that it shouldn't be, honestly, they don't They don't care about their fellow workers. They don't care about their members, and we should let them know that.
Thank you, Will. We have John Palmer, we have John Brown, and then we have Tom Leadham.
I want to tell Will, I absolutely agree with him being a fellow Texan and knowing what we're headed towards. I guess the thing about all this is the absolute intellectual dishonesty by leadership in the Teamsters. And it's insulting that I remember when they put air conditioning in the freight trucks and Tyson Johnson claimed it was a big victory. The reason we got air conditioning in the freight trucks was the manufacturers quit making them without air conditioners, but they claimed it as a victory. Let's stop being bullshitting our members. Let's tell them the truth. If you're more than likely UPS is going to drive these trucks until they can't rebuild them anymore, and then maybe they're going to start dropping some air conditioners in them. So I think I have a problem with that. I do want to clarify something that I put in the chat. Former steering committee member at TDU. I made a blanket statement that probably wasn't fair. I know a lot of members and have a lot of friends that are still members of TDU. I have nothing but disregard, and I have no respect for Ken Paff or David Levine. They neither one of them ever worked as a Teamster. Ken may have pumped gas in the 70s or something, but they shouldn't be speaking for members. My encouragement to TDU is to get new leadership, because they sold their soul. They sold their soul for a little bit of money at their convention. I believe all the work I did at TDU, I am proud of. I gave them a buttload of my cash to support the cause, but they're not about shit right now, except filling their coffers. And what they did to some of y'all, I'm freight guy, right? It's just straight up bullshit. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not mad at the members at TDU, but their leadership needs to go. And the members should get rid of Paff and Levine. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. John Brown?
Hello. Yeah, I like a lot what was said about, the members, right, having more of a say, because that's the most important thing. The members organizing, despite, what the union officials, union members organizing, independently of the union officials. I like to talk about, an organizing model. We need to have more democracy and more transparency in our union, and I like the idea of, the transparency in the contract negotiations, and electing our rank and file members to the negotiating committee, and no non-disclosure clauses, opposed to that too. But we could also, because there's like divisions in the Teamsters. We should be able, to vote for who's the head of the UPS division and freight division, and it should be voted on by the members. But that being said, we need, to get the best, elected officials in, and get the best, bylaws, in also in our constitutions, right? So, we need to get organizing, for people running. I'm retired, so, I can't run, but John Palmer's on here, maybe Christopher Silveira, we need to start organizing. But until then, we should be, out there talking to members, and we don't even have to lie about, about what SOB did. We need to organize them, and talk to the members and educate them, if they don't already know how bad SOB is. Because there was a propaganda machine selling, historic contract when it was historic, concessions, because they could have got so much more on so many things, but the most important thing, they didn't get us, the protection from automation and layoffs. So, and one big thing is when they have campaigns, they put stickers up and this, that, and other. We should get something together. I'm with, I've been, promoting dump SOB all the time, so prior to any candidates come out, we should be negatively campaigning SOB and, and the people, the elected officials that support them as well. And, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tom, and then Will again.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. And I just want to make a pitch quickly for Teamster T-Link. which is t-unionlink.org. Hope everybody registers, gets on, talks about the things that are on your mind. It was good to hear all of these issues, and I don't think you'll find anybody on this call that would be in opposition to any of the issues that I've heard. But the question that I have, I think there may be some unintended consequences with some of the proposals that you've made. But aside from that, I don't think there's much argument about the issues. They're good issues to organize around. I think some are constitutional issues, which I think it should be on the front burner right now. These constitutional changes, constitutional amendments, constitutional issues. And the others are contractual issues, primarily from what I'm hearing at UPS. But many of them have ramifications far beyond UPS and would be good in grocery or freight or any of the Teamster contracts. So I think these are really good issues to organize around. One group in terms of organizing around a contract changes, and the other with constitutional changes. And the rules have just come out for the election. All of your local unions are going to be submitting election plans for delegate elections in just a couple of months. Just a couple of months, those things are happening. Folks, we are running out of time to change this union in the next 5 years. Because if Sean O'Brien is in again with his cast of characters who don't seem to have the guts to stand up to anything that the Trump administration is doing, we're going to be stuck with them for another 5 years. So what I would like to know is, who is planning on running for delegate in your local union election? Because all of this is just talk if we don't have the delegates to go to the convention and at least raise these issues. You're not even going to be able to talk about it if you don't have people on the floor. And that's going to be a Donnybrook. So please, we're running out of time. We have to start thinking about constitutional amendments, candidates, election rules, and organizing around those convention elections, those delegate elections. Everybody should know, all your activists in every bargaining unit should know, the union pays all expenses. This is a different kind of election. A lot of members are very reluctant to vote for new people, for inexperienced people in local union officer elections. They feel differently about who they send to the convention. And you are more likely, as a rank and file activist, to win those kinds of elections. But you have to organize, you have to get the votes, you got to start now. So that's my pitch. Again, please log in, register, t-unionlink.org. We need everybody. We need all voices. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Well, we will be posting the flyer listing our platform on T-Union Link later tonight. So I look forward to seeing the conversation that comes out of that. Will, you are up next, and then Colleen.
Colleen, would you like to go since I've talked a couple times?
I mean, Tom, I hear you, but I also disagree that this is all just talk. I mean, we can try and get delegates, but how many rank and file members, to Sam's point, actually are even interested in the union? We can try and get somebody within this circle to run this platform, but if we don't have people who want to vote for that and people who even know that it's worth these demands, then are we going to win? So I think that it's not wasted time to try and continue to build up these demands just to our brothers and sisters and workers on the shop floor, and trying to get rank and file members to see that it's even feasible for us to be making these demands. How many people out there just think that we shouldn't even make demands for an election, and it should just be a thing where we wait to see who runs, and there's no proactive steps between workers on the shop floor to be issuing such demands. And I personally think most of us are definitely going to be involved for more than just 5 years. This list of demands is relevant whether they get met in 5 years or not, and we still should keep pushing these. So it can be like a bit discouraging and misleading to just try and basically say like, if this doesn't get won now, then like there's no point in the future, or that we only have 5 years. I think this is like a long-term struggle. But yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that that it's not solely about just trying to get a progressive candidate first without like an active rank and file and masses of workers like to be able to know that that person exists, or that yeah, so maybe others can build off of that point, but yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. Will, and then John.
I have a bit of a different take on the delegate elections than Colleen
Fuck
does.
you!
That's what my local said to me when I ran for officer, actually. So I think the delegate elections are a wonderful opportunity for us to go out and to push this this agenda. I think I think I agree with Colleen in the sense that running for delegate is probably not going to be very successful for anybody with this sort of orientation politically. But I think we should do it anyway, and use that as an opportunity. I think this platform we should maybe make available to people to say, if you believe in this platform, run for delegate, pushing this platform, and get out there and talk to people about it. Whether we're going to win or not, I think it's an important way to say, this is the platform, this is us putting skin in the game when it comes to pushing this platform. But I do think Colleen makes a good point about the rank and file. We don't have better leadership because we don't have a rank and file that even wants better leadership. The officer election that I just ran in, there are 11,000 members in my local, and 2,100 of them voted in the election. We lost the election by 216 votes. So who won that election? It wasn't my slate. It wasn't the incumbent slate. Not giving a shit won the election. So this platform is to engage people in something that is not bullshit, that is something that is not TDU file a grievance bullshit. It's something real. And I think we should go out and push it with delegate elections, whether that is successful or not. So that's kind of my different take.
Thank you, Will. John?
I think that the discussion is really good, and I don't think that anybody's wrong. And I want to kind of play off of Colleen's point about, look, I'm 66 years old. I still got a little kick left in me, but this is a long-term thing. But you also have to get a toehold on a rock before you climb it, and this, you can't beat the system to some degree without being engaged in how it works. So I think this is all synonymous, and I think the points that you guys are suggesting, I think on en masse are really good points. 3-year contracts. I remember when we got 3-year contracts, no one wants to get locked into a 5-year deal and then have what's fixing to happen with this economy, where inflation is going to take all that away from you and you can't fix it. But I think that we can win enough delegates elections. And I say we, not just Teamster Mobilize. I'm talking about, there are a lot of us out there that are just in need of some unity and some leadership to make you got to get nominated, by the way. I mean, any candidate has to get nominated from the floor by a delegate. I'll be a delegate by virtue of my office, but I encourage people in a local union. Leadership's not inspired about running another election most of the time. And if the members are inspired about these things that you're putting out, we won the delegates election in my local back in the early 90s. I can't remember what it was when Ron Carey ran, and it shocked the world. So Ron Carey was, in my lifetime, the best general president we've ever had. A true trade unionist. He fought for the members. I think we can do this. I mean, I'm certainly. It's a very doable thing, and all these things can happen simultaneously, right? And Will, by the way, I know the guy you ran with, and I know you very well. I'm proud of what y'all did. Taking an incumbent out is hard, but a delegates election is very much the local leadership doesn't have their heart in it. And a lot of these guys, here's the trick. A lot of these guys, when they get to the convention, they all talk shit behind each other's back. It's funny that they're going to have this unity conference because there's no unity there. They shit talk each other the whole time they're there. But a lot of these guys don't have the backbone to stand up to Sean O'Brien because he's a little punk and a punk ass bully, and no one stands up to him. But they go in that booth. If we could just get people, we're not going to win everything we want. It's going to take time, but I wouldn't give up on the idea of at least, I mean, Sean O'Brien's got to go. My dog's better than Sean O'Brien. And by the way, I didn't mean to disrespect my dog. I love him. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. My dog's great.
Dogs are always great. Kat?
Yeah, this is a great discussion. I generally agree with the point that if we have members who are in a position to run for delegate elections and have the necessary time and resources and bureaucratic know how to do that, then they should go for it, and we should work together to support them in that. Best case scenario, we get people to the convention. Worst case scenario, we have a platform from which to agitate around these demands and try to popularize them as much as possible, because Will is correct that a lot of what we're up against is apathy and discouragement on the part of our siblings who don't see any good leadership out there. They don't see somebody who's actually putting forward and trying to fight for things that they care about and that they know matter to them in their day-to-day lives and beyond. And to the point that Zoe put in the chat asking about whether we'll be able to produce more materials, the answer is yes. And if you want to take part in that, you should join the new media committee, which is kind of how we've reorganized from the organizing committee previously, because we've realized that we have a lot of folks with great ideas, really, really fiery agitators in this organization, and we need to take advantage of that. So if you are looking to be a part of this, even if you aren't in a position to run as a delegate in your local, you can definitely play a role in helping us to create materials that will support those who are, and or will just be able to popularize these demands across the country to all members of the Teamsters Union.
Thank you. And to Kat's point, I will follow up with, we have a flyer that will be available on our website, hopefully later today. And I'm going to post this on T-Union Link. I'm going to post this on the UPSers part-time employees Facebook page. We're going to have social media stuff. I'm not on social media, so we're gonna have some social media stuff that we're going to be posting as we get through the week. Yes, we could use some help with that kind of stuff, but we could also just use people who want to hit record and do a quick video on something about our platform that they're passionate about, and just post that on their page. We also need stuff like that too. A flyer. We couldn't put all these great points on the flyer. They just wouldn't fit. So we need people to take their reactions to these demands and put them out there with some information about what we're actually asking for or how it will affect us as union members or how it will actually improve things for all workers. So yes, we can use some help with those things too. So we have gone past our hour allotted time, but it was a great conversation. We're going to wrap up things. I hope to see you on our WhatsApp or see you in our chats or just see you at the next general membership meeting. So it's solid.
If y'all wouldn't mind, I'd like to end the meeting with a quote if I can bring it up.
Go right ahead.
All right. The quote is by Frederick Douglass. It's called "The Limits of Tyrants." If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those people who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are people who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar and its mighty waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without demand. It never did, and it never will. People might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all that they get. Find out what people will submit to, and you will find out what the exact amount of injustice which will be imposed upon them. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
In solidarity. If the steering committee would stay on, but the rest of you all go enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Take it easy.
Bye. Thank you for
Thanks for
coming.
being here.
It was nice meeting you all. Take care.